Welcome to the Profitability Webcast, hosted by J.G. Van Graan, Director of Sales. We are back on the road. We packed the circus up. We brought it from Orlando all the way to Vegas for a week for the ESCO Summit, and we're very excited. Today's podcast is going to be very cool. I'm super stoked about this topic, and we're going to get into it in a minute, but I'm sitting here with Brent Davidson. Brent, you are the founder of the Heat Pump Summit.
That is true.
And this is a fun thing for me to talk about because I am very passionate about heat pumps and that type of thing. I'm going to warn you, I'm a little bit of a natural gas guy, and I used to be an oil technician, but I digress.
We'll get into it.
Absolutely. Hey, let's pause here and let's pay the bills real quick.
When it comes to running a field service business, to say you're busy, that's an understatement. Knowing the full schedule, managing work orders, paperwork, billing, and inventory, dispatching the right techs to the right job, you're working too hard. What if you could do it differently? With ThermoGrid, you can. Easily understand the entire schedule, automate processes, streamline workflows, manage inventory, dispatch the right techs to the right jobs right through their phones. Make more money, faster and easier, and get your time back. Relax. Life is better with ThermoGrid. So, what are you waiting for? Contact us today to learn more.
All right, and we're back. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We do have to pay the bills somewhat, and there's that.
Somebody's got to.
Somebody's got to. So, Brent, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us how this all came to be, the Heat Pump Summit. I'm stoked. Just tell us a little bit about it.
Totally, yeah. So, believe it or not, my background's all in software.
Okay,
so,
there you go.
Yeah.
This is a good place.
So it's a little bit of a diversion, but
Sure.
last 5 years has really been in solar software. Everything from utility scale engineering tools, project finance tools. If anybody knows, doing a utility scale power plant, it's not just like taking a mortgage.
Right.
Very complicated stuff.
Right.
Automating a lot of that in software. Then into the residential world, looking at whole home analysis of how you're using power, et cetera.
Right.
And just out of that, I was like, well, where's this power going?
Right.
Okay, well, increasingly it's going to a heat pump. And yeah, I was just looking for opportunities to move the industry forwards. Looked at some software opportunities in the heat pump world. I think there's some great startups in the space. I couldn't find a new idea.
Yeah. No,
What I kept hearing was that the equipment's pretty good, and the installations, they vary. And just backing out of that, wanting to be involved in the community, really felt that an event would be something quick to try out and valuable for moving the labor, the skill set forward within respect to heat pumps.
Now, you already had one last year. This is your second event coming up, right?
Correct. Yeah, the first one was back in the San Francisco Bay Area where I live, and about 250 folks. Really awesome feedback from attendees, exhibitors, speakers, etc. And it's just seeming to hit a bit of a nerve. I did a lot of cold calling for the first one, just letting contractors in the area know about it.
Sure.
And it was a lot of, oh man, this is great timing. We just started doing them. We're trying to get our heads around it.
Right.
So it's experienced folks. Not green folks coming off the street. It's experienced folks coming in, but wanting to up level their skill a bit in heat pumps.
Well, it's interesting because, I was a service technician for a long time, and heat pumps were always around, but the technology wasn't ever what it's becoming. So I remember I transitioned from being a technician and I started selling in home, and to convince somebody that had a gas furnace to go to a heat pump was always like, are you crazy? Like, I like that hot heat, right? Well, then we started slowing indoor fan motors down. We started doing things, and now all of a sudden I'm discharging really warm temperatures, and people, the myth of the heat not being comfortable is almost gone, especially now with compressors that can, ice or what's the word I'm looking for? Scale. I can't think right now. Sorry, it's been a couple days.
Yeah.
No, but it's just interesting to me that the technology and the stuff that's coming out is just better and better and better.
Absolutely.
And the efficiencies are getting higher. I did quite a bit of work with geothermal heat pumps at one time, helping to lay them out. I sold a bunch of them. And that technology is coming back. And, it went away for a little bit. Energy cost was up. And they sold a lot. Energy costs started coming down. They went away. And now they're starting to kind of come back a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this heat pump summit seems to be on the foreground of this heat pump industry. What trends are you seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'd also be remiss if I didn't just get in the front right away. Got to pay the bills. Denver, I almost said Denver, California. Right. Denver, Colorado, May 28th, 29th. That's our next event coming up. So that's kind of the context of our conversation here. But yeah, similar format, training, everything from details on out to business stuff, meet with rebate programs, et cetera, in the area. Still a little bit of a regional event, but definitely, anybody coming in from a different market, they're still going to learn a lot of stuff. Just we're not going to have your rebate providers in, a completely different part of the country.
Sure.
So, but anyways, so your question was around trends again?
Yeah. Just kind of what trends do you see in the heat pump industry kind of going forward? What are you seeing coming?
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing is I have a bit of an outsider perspective, which I think has strengths and I think it has weaknesses. Right. The biggest thing is a wide variety in your geography, based on geography in the country of how far along this is. But it comes back to the fundamentals of, in most cases, the physics follow that a 400% or 300% or, down to a 200% efficient machine is better than an 85 to, at best, a 90, 95%.
98, yeah, they're
98.
Up to about 98.
Hey, that's pretty good. But that installation is going to cost you a bit, know. So that trend is just baseline across everything. In a place like California where I live and I've spent, a lot of the solar part of my career, it's the electrification path, it to me, is a one-way street.
Yes.
And in areas like a big portion of the country, California, Arizona, Florida, Texas, we got a lot of sun. We're sitting here in Las Vegas right here.
Sure.
We are in a windowless room in a casino, but I promise you the sun is still shining out there. Pairing home solar and a heat pump, and increasingly a battery, and I can talk more in detail about that, that's really where things are going.
Right.
And Maine, Wisconsin, I grew up in Wisconsin, we're still seeing a lot of it there. The solar resource isn't quite as good. But it's really around rethinking where our energy comes from. And it doesn't really matter what political party or camp you come in. Hey, it's on the roof, it goes straight in the heat pump, or round trips a little bit, in a battery. And then I'm, not relying on the grid very much. I'm more efficient.
Yeah.
These are sort of baseline trends that I think are hard to argue with. Within the industry, it's people just saying, hey, be a little bit more, willing to look at some new information.
Right.
Rethink that heat pump from the 90s,
right.
that the last one you installed.
Yeah, and I made a joke about being a natural gas and oil guy, and I still think the best marriage in heat pump for me, or in this industry for me, is a dual fuel system where you do have that backup if you need it. And actually, it's a little bit more of a, for me, when I used to sell on home, it's actually not the reason you would think it is. Where we live, so I live in North Carolina, we get a lot of storms, a lot of power outages. So there is the thing of, needing a generator if you can afford one. However, if you have a dual fuel system, then your power goes out, you can run the heat pump. The furnace runs on 115, and the natural gas doesn't need electricity to come on, so you at least have heat, right?
Yeah.
So I do think that's the thing. However, I think that what heat pumps and what the manufacturers are able to get out of these heat pumps now, and it's just every year it seems like something new is coming out. Several years ago, and this was, I'm going to date myself, but Lennox was one of the first people that kind of came out and had just a 20, I think it was a 20-series system you could buy that you would slide 2 solar panels on a roof. And, working in an industry with a lot of guys that, that's the, what is that going to do? That only powers the fan motor. You can kind of see at that time how the industry was starting to change and how they were starting to understand that there's sunshine in most of these states for a lot of part. It's not like we live in England, right?
Yeah,
and so the solar piece to it makes a lot of sense to me. I can just see it. And you are specializing in some battery backup stuff too, right? So that energy gets stored. It can be used for other stuff too.
Yeah, well, on the topic of backup, the event, I should point out, we're not dogmatic on which system, you do or don't go with. Sure. And it's not like, if you come to the event, you got to, tell everybody like JG to, go screw off.
Right.
But when you look at backup, there's a lot of different cases, and there's a lot of different, grid reliabilities, areas that get ice storms that have all above ground power lines. Yes. Yeah, you're going to have issues with electricity.
Sure.
Areas that you don't, it's a lot more reliable. In terms of the type of backup, Eric Kaiser from True Tech Tools has some great talks around, that backup can be a grill can of propane
Right.
bottle, I guess I should say.
Yes, right.
A bottle from the gas station that can be fed into a basic piston engine that can generate electricity for your home.
Yeah,
that's
true.
And in an outage case, maybe you're bringing your temperature down a little bit. We're 60 in the house. Well, it's fine. It's 0 outside. Right. Okay, I'll put on the jacket. Whatever. Depending on your exact installation. Not saying that it has to be the case. So I do find it funny the way we think about things is so influenced by the world around us. It's very obvious.
True.
But why? Oh, gas is reliable. Well, what? The molecules like just a mail pigeon that just finds its way to your house?
Right.
Well, no, it's kind of dangerous. So we
Right.
buried it.
Right. Exactly.
That's the only difference.
I mean, how many times every once in a while in the news you find out a residential house blow up because something went wrong in the regulator?
I just saw that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, and that one might have had a little more of the story. That was a very big explosion.
Yes.
But the guy worked at the gas company.
Yeah.
I forgot what state that was.
It happens.
Yeah.
Your focus on creating this connection between contractors and the industry, it's really commendable, and I think it's a really cool thing. So can you elaborate a little bit about how the Heat Pump Summit is going to foster more of this collaboration after the summit's over, obviously?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the goal of any event is to bring the community together, and create some positive benefit out
Sure.
of that. So we're sitting here at ESCO. It's folks that are a lot of trainers, different technical universities, trade schools, et cetera. The summit, is very contractor focused, and information that's designed to be tactical, to be put into use the next day. Really just seeing kind of an immediate, ROI on your time and expense to attend. We're very sensitive and want to, put great value out there. As it relates to, the community and building those connections, there's definitely the biggest one that really needs to be built more is between contractors and the rebate groups.
Right.
And love them or hate them, rebates are going to always be a thing.
Right.
Whether they're coming from the government or they're coming from the utility. It's the way for somebody who has an interest in the power grid, or the gas grid, to put their thumb on the scale in some way.
That's right.
And I think it's universally understood that those programs often suck.
Yes, this is true.
So that would be, I don't mean that the whole event's about, hey, come,
No, I get it.
feedback rebates, but that would be honestly one big area.
Well, and that's, the very cool thing about that. And I'll tell you, I didn't do trade shows until I started here. My background's heating and air, not software.
Yeah.
Right? So now I come to these, and I'll tell you what's most powerful for me when I come to these things is the networking. And just understanding this.
Absolutely.
And actually listening to contractors, just talking to each other. It's funny, contractors are a funny thing, man. If they're in the same town, they won't talk to each other. But you bring them to events like this, they'll drink a beer together and talk. So I really think that's very cool. And I think that's what's so cool, that you're focusing on one part of this industry that is exploding, let's be honest. I mean, heat pumps are going to be the future. The government wants it to be. That we're going to go to electrification. And to have a summit where guys can actually just come talk about the adoption and how they sell this to their homeowners
Exactly.
is really a very cool thing. Heat pumps offers many benefits, and we've already been talking about a couple of them. And there is some challenges with adoption, just kind of rolling into that. What's some of these hurdles you've been seeing, and how do you think the summit will help kind of clear some of these hurdles up?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I mean, some of it does, frankly, go back to what your split between gas and electricity costs are.
Right.
In California, there's a big study came out. It's generally no different.
Yeah.
So contractors tend to say, hey, this thing's so efficient. Well, guess what? In California, we got a lot of wildfire, damage to pay for, PG&E, all that stuff's in the headlines. Other areas, like, a tailwind to adoption would be, hey, if your heat pump bills are going to be a little bit less.
Yeah.
That being said, everybody knows you can't always just sell on that exact bill. It's also kind of hard to predict. But those comfort benefits are obviously going to be your strongest selling point. That's something that I hear consistently from contractors. That's the best way to sell. In terms of what was the verb you just used? Just repeat the question again real quick.
I said, with the hurdles, how do you see the summit kind of just helping some of these adoption hurdles go away?
Yeah, sorry, hurdles. I guess I meant to say noun. If I'm going back to my grammar here.
No worries. I'm bad at grammar, but I have an excuse. I'm foreign.
It's funny. Well, anyway, I mean, cost is, obviously it's the biggest thing in the room. That's
Yes.
where the rebate sort of programs come in. Any savvy contractor, I mean, it's free money on the table.
Right.
Exactly how it gets deployed, exactly how much it costs you to figure out,
Right.
And implement. That's a big question. So, like I said, love them or hate them, rebates are a big part of the question
That's
right
right.
now. The other, thing is, does your first install, does that homeowner go out and say to another person, hey, I had a great install.
Yeah. No,
you
they
should
don't.
get one of these.
No.
That's going to be the number 2 hurdle.
Yeah.
And so, making sure that you've got understanding of how to size that envelope, how to meet that customer's needs. That's really going to be, it's fundamental stuff, but more important with heat pumps.
Yeah, and I do have homeowners that watch this, and this is just a public service announcement. 80% of what's wrong with systems is the way they were installed.
It's absolutely true.
And when they fail in 5 years, don't look at the equipment. Look at the guy that put it in. I'm just going to be flat out honest. I've worked for guys that, that was the big emphasis is how do we put it in, and redoing ductwork. And in our state, North Carolina, I don't know how these guys did it for a long time, but every return is undersized, and the static pressure is always an issue, right? And that's what kills heat pumps. To be honest.
It's even worse with the heat pump situation.
Absolutely.
You got that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, a furnace can pull through some of that stuff, but a heat pump can't. And especially now, everything going to, variable speed motors, and I know that's not the correct term. Don't kill me, but these ECMs they thrive on having proper static pressure, and if you don't have it, the efficiency is not going to be there.
Yeah,
comfort's not going to be there.
Yeah, and just a quick plug for because sometimes it makes it sound heat pumps like this weak little guy in the corner. No. It's like, oh, he only run, you can't run very fast or whatever. But I mean, the idea is to heat the house, not the air.
Right.
And so that continuous run, and again, I'll plug Eric Kaiser, True Tech Tools again.
Yeah.
He has got a great presentation that'll be at the summit around, I forget exactly what numbers he's going to use, but your design day, whatever, cold day.
Yeah.
And then on a day that's 50 something degrees, that furnace is running for 3 minutes an hour.
Yeah. No, that's true.
So that's kind of just to really remind everybody, especially homeowners, that's why you want it running all the time.
That's right. Well, and in the summertime, that's how it's really not the misnomer is it's the cooling of air. No, it's not. It's actually the extraction of heat.
Yeah.
And getting the heat out of that, and then the byproduct being moisture, right? So you're dehumidifying, and when it's a little bit of a drier type of thing in the summertime, it feels a little bit more comfortable, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, anyway, looking forward to the future. This summit, to me, I think is going to be a thing that's going to start snowballing, and I think it's going to be a thing every year, and I think it's going to get bigger and bigger because I can just see your passion for it, and I can see the sense behind it. Tell me what you see in the future, 5-10 years from now, with this summit. Do you think maybe you're going to help influence some policy? That's a big...
that's a big. You're the first one to sort of say that the Heat Pump Summit's on its way to influencing the policy. It's kind of funny because I tell people there's no policy people at the event. Don't worry.
Right. Yeah, but it's kind of like that thing is, I get it, but when you get this industry is so cool. When you get a bunch of guys together and ideas get born.
People want to solve problems.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. You might not have the policy guys there, but they might get a phone call after the summit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be a great outcome. I'd say right now we're still a very ground game. Let's just make sure we're getting the right information out there to the right people. But, 5-10 years, all these trends around more electric and less fossil. Again, it really doesn't matter what, part of your camp you come from. It's more efficient.
Yes.
It can create better comfort. And in a lot of cases, it can lower your bills, although not all. I do understand that. And so you are going to see, I think, this event, the Heat Pump Summit, morph into something that's really beyond just looking at HVAC. Because there's just one component of the home.
Right.
You've obviously got your hot water. That's obviously a portion, of this event. It's just HVAC is a little bit deeper than hot water, so we talk about it more. But it is absolutely part of this event. Around that time scale, the cost of batteries in the home going to come way down.
That's good.
And, we have concerns around material sourcing, whatever. There's never been a bigger look than there is right now on how do we get these materials and how do we get them responsibly. There's headlines around over 50% of the known supply of lithium has now been discovered in Nevada.
Okay. It's
developing. It's a developing story.
Sure.
Yeah. And we're going to see more solar, more batteries, and I think the folks in each of these trades working together more.
Yeah.
Solar guy shows up. Well, how big of a system would you put it in? Well, how big of a heat pump are you going to go? I see your furnace is, nearing replacement. No, we're not going to tell you to replace it right now, but when it does, it's going to be way cheaper for you to already have the right size solar and battery. Right. And same flip side for the HVAC guy. Well, we're coming in and we're going to put this heat pump in. You thought about solar? If you're bill sensitive or you want to just be off grid and say, hey, I hate my utility, just take as much power at the home as I can do. Those are the trends that I think are really going to be different and really break down what are right now fairly siloed industries.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I do think, the thing, in my opinion, that has hurt the solar industry a little bit, that actually hurt the geothermal industry, it's a very expensive install. Right?
Yeah, the upfront cost is significant, for sure.
However, the savings, if you can sell the savings really well,
if it's done right.
Yeah, if it's done right, you'll sell systems all day long. I know that when we were doing the geothermal stuff, you would sit down with a homeowner and it's like, listen, it's going to be a $20,000, $30,000 job. However, this heat pump will last 30 years. It's going to do this for you. It's going to, the utility's going to be here. And so the argument can always be made. is if you're going to be a long-term owner of a home, and actually even resale, right? So I'm friends with a lot of realtors. They look for those things, and that's a big plus for a home to have some of that sustainable energy within the home.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
No, very cool. So tell us very quickly again about where the summit's going to be, how guys can attend, all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's May 28th, 29th in Denver.
It's coming up.
Coming right up.
Right. Not skiing weather, though.
No, not skiing weather. Yeah.
Right.
Well, there'll still be some snow for the dedicated, but
sure.
Yeah, I think the resorts will probably be closed by then. But yeah, it's in Denver. It's at the CSU, Colorado State University Spur campus. So it's an event campus, basically, and they have some lab space, some other cool stuff there. Very cool, brand new building. A little different than the casino environment we're sitting in right now.
I'm not a casino fan, but...
Yeah. Hey, and yeah, like I said, it's a day and a half event. The opening half day, the main stage is a bit more focused on business content, breakout rooms. We'll still have your full suite. Second day, main stage, all HVAC through and through, breakout rooms, plumbing information, et cetera, training, some manufacturer stuff. And then again, be with the people who get it.
Yeah.
That this is the way to create comfort in most environments. And this is the way to grow your business.
Yeah.
I heard from a marketing group that will probably be attending at the summit. Been in the industry 20 years. They do all kinds of marketing for big companies and little companies, manufacturers, contractors. They said that the heat pump search terms are the only ones that are growing.
Yes,
everything else is on a decline. We've pulled all these jobs forward. But for folks who are looking for that comfort solve, or do need a replacement, that better business is going to be heat pumps, and that's why we started the event.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. And so, where can they find you? Where can they find do you have a website?
Yeah, heatpumpsummit.org.
Well, damn, I can't get it easier.
Not going to forget that one.
Brent, thank you so much for sitting down with me. I really am starting to very much enjoy these podcasts because I get to meet guys like you that just really are thinking outside the box a little bit and bringing cool stuff like this summit to us. We're actually going to try to attend. I already sent all the information off to our marketing group.
Excellent.
I'm excited. And I actually have a couple guys I want to kind of tell you about and introduce you and see if they would want to come too. So it can be a really fun thing. And I think it's great for the industry. Not always was I a heat pump fan, but I have turned into it. I have them in my home, and I have them running fairly efficiently. So I get it. I think this is where the industry is going, and I think this summit's on the cutting edge of doing some of this stuff. So well done.
Very cool. Appreciate it. Brent at heatpumpsummit.org. Reach out, or there's a contact email on the website. And one closing thought, is just around efficiency, I think, is the right way.
I agree.
And we talk a lot about all these political stuff I'm not going to get into. But, do we want to use less energy? Is that better for the country? It is.
Yeah.
And in one way or another, these efficiencies that heat pumps are reaching, wherever the energy is coming from, it's a part of that longer story. And that's why no matter how you view on it, that's my argument. I'm taking it to the grave.
Well,
using less energy is better than more.
I agree with you, and it's not about a political party. It's about my damn pocketbook.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot. Or now we're making the podcast even longer. I recognize sometimes electricity more expensive than gas, but there's a lot of different solutions. There's a lot of different financing options. There's a lot of different smart contractors out there that compare solar storage, heat pumps, and make it work.
Yeah, no. And what I meant by that comment is the cheaper I can get the electricity usage in my house, the better.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
I'm all about saving $1, brother.
Love it.
So, Brent, thank you so much. Guys, we will be back soon. I think we have a couple more of these events coming up before May. So we'll be back with you. And then we are trying to kick off our weekly podcast here. So keep an eye out for that. But thank you so much for viewing, and we will be back.
There you go. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.